Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the Nomad CEO, where we interview inspiring entrepreneurs from around the world. And today I'm here with Jamie Thompson. And so I've been working with Jamie for a few weeks now, and his story is really extraordinary because he's one of those guys who actually, well, call them experts, because I've been, obviously, I think everybody has been in this AI space now, because there's really no way around it, since everyone needs AI and all the entrepreneurs are implementing it. But there's a difference between the people that talking about AI as if they were the super experts and they just started and riding this wave of AI, which is like everywhere nowadays. And then there's the other real expert that actually have worked with AI before most other people even knew how it is spelled out, or they have basically. So he has been working with AI for a very long time, implementing these systems in large corporations and companies. And so I wanted to talk to Jamie about his experience, where this is headed, about his success. He also he's from the US, and he basically sought out to live abroad, and he's now living in Colombia. So that's why I brought him in. And yeah, welcome to the show, Jamie. Could you just share a little bit about your background? Why did you leave the US? How did you get specific knowledge about AI? And so, where do you think things are headed right now in the AI space?
Sure. Thank you, Roman, for the introduction. It's great to be here. I'm really excited to talk to you and your audience. Well, maybe I'll start with Colombia first, because I can touch upon that a little faster, and then we'll get into the AI stuff in a moment. Yeah, so I'm actually living full time right now in Barranquilla, Colombia. What happened is I got married in 2021. My wife is Colombian, and
Best
we,
choice.
yeah, they're wonderful people. It's a lot of work sometimes, Roman, but they're wonderful.
I know.
Yeah. So we got married in 2021, and our plan was to get back to the U.S. as soon as we could. I was living more or less in North Carolina at the time. I'm a Boston guy originally, but I had left sort of right before the pandemic, moved to coastal Carolina. I started traveling around Latin America, fell in love, got married, and our plan was to go back. Long story short, it took us almost 2.5 years for her to get a visa. So we applied for her marriage. So we got married here, applied for the visa, to get into the U.S. and live in the U.S. and all that stuff. It took over 2 years, almost 2.5 years. And life happens along the way. We had a beautiful daughter who is a Colombian and American citizen. And yeah, by the time she got her visa, we were already expecting, actually, our daughter, and we were hunkered down here. So we've been here for a while, and the truth is, I kind of like it. I've got the ability to go back and forth to the U.S. As necessary. I operate SprinkleNet largely as a virtual company with a team of talented people around the world. Some here in South America, some in the U.S., some in the Philippines, and other parts of the world. So for now, this is a great kind of home base. I think in a few years we may relocate full time, but we'll see what happens. Colombia's been a great place so far. But yeah, and then AI. Do you want me
Yeah.
to touch on that actually a little bit here?
Yeah, just the Colombia, being a great place to live. I can relate. I've been doing business there too. Just a few years ago. I'm unsure where right now the political situation and everything, but definitely the most beautiful women in the world.
Yeah, yeah, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
to live
Um,
to live.
So where, like I said, I'm in Barranquilla, which is a coastal. It's an industrial city. It's not a town. It's a pretty big city. It's in between Cartagena and Santa Marta. I've traveled all over Colombia. I know Bogota very well. I love Bogota actually. And quick side note: prior to my sort of time now in Colombia and adventures all over Colombia, I had lived. We actually lived. My wife and I lived in Mexico for about a year after we were married, and then I had also spent a lot of time in Mexico prior to that. So I know Mexico City really well. It's a great city, but Bogota is phenomenal. I'm a huge fan of Bogota. I think that if my wife's family wasn't from this area, I would probably like Bogota just because to be there because it has a lot of similarities to what I'm used to in Boston and New York, at least in terms of some neighborhoods. Chapinero, for example. I don't know if you know Chapinero, but
Yeah.
it's a neighborhood that's sort of very European and reminds me of Boston.
It's cold in Bogota. That's what I don't like it about it. It's cold in Bogota. It's pretty cold because it's so high,
It
the
is.
altitude.
Well, it's a high altitude, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's super high altitude. To me, it's not cold. I mean, I'm used to, snow in the winter. It never snows there, so I actually love the climate. A lot of people complain about it. I love it. The sun comes out pretty much every day. It rains a lot. It's cool at night, but I like it. Here, on the other hand, there's 2 temperatures, like hot and hotter. 88 degrees
Yeah.
and sunny or 98 degrees and sunny. It's pretty ins and then there's a rainy
Yeah,
season,
let's
but
talk about AI. So, as I introduced you, you have this long history of AI experience with AI,
yeah.
and I would first question for you would be when did this actually start? Because for most people, we all like I think most people experience AI like this sudden appearance, like 2 years ago when
Yeah,
they launched the first LLM model, large language model, to the world,
yeah.
and then so for most people it was just this. Now it's here, and then everything changed. But I would like to ask you, when did it actually start to happen in the business world? So when did you start to implement this technology, and what kind of advantage is it for you now?
Yeah. Well, it's funny how I was just thinking, it's nighttime here for me. So I was thinking this evening, before our chat here about how things have really come full circle for me in my career. One thing I haven't shared with you yet, but it's very germane to what SprinkleNet is doing right now, what I'm doing. My first business out of college was actually a document management company. So this was back in 2002. I was basically running a little business that was doing like document scanning and kind of back office processing
I'm
for
having
HR
interruptions
departments,
here.
law firms,
Is this you
small
or me?
insurance agencies, and that was my foray into
Uh-oh.
learning about business
Is this your internet
processes,
or is this
and
my
some of
internet?
these tedious things that kind of
You're,
happen
you're
to
not there
to
anymore.
keep the trains running in
Are you still there?
most every type of small to mid-sized enterprise,
Uh-oh.
and in some cases, or not some cases, all cases, larger enterprises have these back office processing operations. I did that scanning business for a few years, and it was like medium. I mean, there was software involved. We were building software. That was my foray into sort of assembling a team of software developers and working directly with clients to build custom applications, but piecing things together, more like systems integration, which is really a lot of what we do right now. And it gave me a ton of exposure into the business process side of things, which I'll touch upon in a second, is very apropos right now.
The first question here regarding AI is that for me, for most people, and for myself as well, the term AI really just came up very recently and suddenly, like 2 years ago, when first large language model GPT got like public, and then so everyone like was caught off guard with this new technology, and like, wow, now it's here. And so after that, everyone jumped on that same like wave, and now you've been working with it before, way before. So my question here is, when did it actually start
Yeah,
to be, when was it, when did you start to implement this technology, and what was the timeline here for your business? It's your unique advantage here
yeah.
because you have that specific knowledge. So what is this track record of AI in the real world, for those of us who don't know?
Well, yeah. Well, AI has been around for decades. I mean, even before I
Decades.
was born, even before both of us were around, I think. I don't know how old you are, Roman, but in 2006, I really lucked out and I got this amazing job in Cambridge, Massachusetts at a company called Charles River Analytics. They're like a DoD R&D agency, or they're a SBIR, Small Business Innovative Research firm that has over decades now developed an expertise in AI, things like computer vision, data modeling. And this was back in 2006. I had prior to that been running this document management company that I started right out of college, gave me a ton of insight into back office processing, sort of like systems integration stuff stuff that I had been doing as an entrepreneur for small law firms, insurance companies, healthcare companies, HR organizations, and that caught the eye of the then CEO of this R&D company in Cambridge. I was super interested in what they were doing in terms of this AI stuff. It was all new to me, but I was reading about it. I saw this opportunity. I was like, I want to work at this place. I want to work at this firm that is doing this advanced research for the Department of Defense. I didn't know anything about AI at the time. But anyway, it's a little long-winded, but I got the opportunity to work alongside scientists and engineers who were working on dozens of different government-funded projects at a time that involved AI. Things like computer vision applications, tracking, object tracking, Bayesian belief model projects. And I was fascinated. For 2 years, I worked there across multiple projects and multiple teams, trying to figure out if there were commercialization opportunities to spin this research out into the commercial world. So to go from government-funded AI projects to commercially viable and commercially fundable projects. This was now, so 2006, 2008, a lot was happening in the world in terms of mobile phones, social networks, and I was starting to gravitate more towards the consumer side of things. Like the core technology was fascinating to me. I wasn't particularly interested in the government angle or the government kind of business side of it. And I really wanted to start a consumer application. So in 2008, I quit and I started this company called Ponger, which was at the time one of the world's first. Pretty wild to say that, but there weren't many of us that were using computer vision and combining it with mobile applications to basically recognize what people could take photos of with their cell phone. So there was so much happening at the time in terms of cameras on cell phones getting better and better, social networks
Yeah.
starting
Can I
to
ask a
pop
question
up.
here? Because
And yeah,
sorry for
what we was
yeah, I just sorry for interrupting.
no, you're good.
I
Go ahead.
was
Yeah.
when you just said that, because it's 2008 was around the first iPhone came up, like around 2008. Around 2009 I think was the first iPhone.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
the first iPhone that really blew up was like number 3, the iPhone 3, 2010 or 11. And then so you're saying that you basically
Yeah.
started working with photo recognition?
BlackBerry, Roman. So our first application, we were building computer vision, like consumer services
Yes.
using MMS.
Multimedia
I don't know if you're, I
messages.
mean,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
German, so yes, MMS. Yeah. So people would take pictures and they'd MMS it to our servers. I actually had these servers running in my apartment in Boston at the time. I've got pictures someplace I got to dig up, but like I had modem. It was so crazy. I'll tell you this, like, I don't know that I've ever really told many people this other than the small sort of core group of us that initially worked at the company, but I had modems hanging out the window of my apartment in Boston, connected to servers in my apartment in Boston. And we were using those modems as MMS modem to get incoming photos from consumers across the United States who are participating in these brand campaigns like games. We were running these games where like you take pictures of your product and you'd get prizes and content and rewards in return. And this was pre-iPhone and modern smartphones. So MMS was the way to do it. And I had modems hanging out the window of my apartment on Beacon Street. It's crazy. And when I say hanging out the window is because I had
But
the
wait a second.
antennas hanging out the window.
Wait a second.
Trying to
When you
get
say
signals.
MMS, so because you just mentioned like photo recognition, is that what you said? Like you can actually that technology that would recognize
Yeah.
what the object on that photo is? Is that what it is? What do you mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was yes, exactly. So like take a picture of your I don't want to spend too much time on this, but like yeah, take a picture of your coffee, your donuts, your soda, your snacks, whatever. That was computer vision, which is a subset of
Okay.
AI. So that was sort of my foray into commercializing consumer AI, building these applications that used computer vision to figure out what people were taking photos of.
That's wild,
That was
Jamie. I mean,
2006 is
in
when we started that.
2008, people, I mean, because to most of us, we don't know,
Or yeah,
nobody, I mean,
2006.
95% of all consumers out here, they don't know about AI until just 5 minutes ago. Like, and you were basically working on this for, yeah.
Yeah. think this is what's so exciting. And so I haven't been as excited about a business or like a whole wave of technology as I am right now since 2008 when I started Ponger. Like when I left the DoD research company to start Ponger, I was super excited. I was jazzed because I was like, this is fundamentally groundbreaking technology that we know how to build. We were literally working on the algorithms and tweaking the math, tweaking sort of the feature called feature detectors and feature recognition. That was a long time ago. Now all this stuff is open source. My job now is totally different. My job now is more about sort of setting the vision, assembling the teams, picking the right tools, working with the clients on the process mapping side of things. But back then, we had to work with the algorithms themselves. Anyway, I haven't been as excited in a long time because now we're like living in this amazing period where there's so many tools available, so much open source like libraries that can just do anything, open source LLMs, open source. I mean, now some of the closed source LLMs are phenomenal too. The foundational, like OpenAI, is obviously always on the table, in client discussions in terms of what foundational LLMs will use. But yeah, the level of sort of enabling technology in AI is mind blowing right now. You have to know how to use it, you have to know how to apply it, customize it, integrate it. But there's so much that is possible that,
So
yeah, I'm
yeah, me
excited,
too. I mean,
really excited.
I think most of us are aware of this huge shift and opportunity it provides to a lot of businesses and to entrepreneurs. So I probably maybe the one of the biggest is to the solopreneur space, right? Or like not even you don't even have to. I mean, now you can just become this generalist AI specialist, where you basically your specific knowledge is to understand which tool best for whatever problem company or your client has. Like for example, you just mentioned process mapping. I mean, the complexity obviously depends on the size of the company, and I know you specialize on the big companies, like the large companies, which it's as the bigger it gets, the more complicated I guess is the implementation process, which is your unique edge. No, like I mean, because a lot of the current AI entrepreneurs, what they do is like they just become sort of let's say they educated on the tools that exist, and then they solve problems for other small businesses. This is my like I would argue that this is the most popular approach right now, and your approach is different because you go straight to the big companies, the large companies, even government you mentioned, and so it's a different ball game, right?
Well, I think well, first of all, when I mentioned government, that was past life, sort of the R&D side of things. I think we are certainly on the precipice of massive change in public sector organizations, and SprinkleNet is definitely positioning itself to participate in helping those organizations, however, which way we can. When we have a variety of those things in motion. But for me, what's super exciting about, yeah, I'm not like exclusively focused on the largest enterprises in the world. So I've got a buddy that works at one of the big consulting firms in the AI space. And most of these large consulting firms that are developing or have AI practices and they're expanding their AI practices, they're angling for like Fortune 200 clients only because they have to be able to generate $100 million, per client in order to make these massive marketing investments into each client project pay off. I think for SprinkleNet, our sweet spot is helping the small to mid-size enterprise or organizations within larger enterprises, but at the organizational level, apply AI in a practical way, but integrate it within their existing system. So that's fundamentally different from sort of like the solo entrepreneur that is taking advantage of this massive wave of
Yeah.
tools that are out there. It's a great time to be a solo entrepreneur if you know how to use great AI tools because there's so many things available to
Yes.
you to magnify your own impact as a small business. But for organizations of a little bit larger size, it's actually a really complex time because they're like, wow, we have these existing applications, we've got this existing IT infrastructure, they've got layers of management sometimes, they've got clients, they've got security, they've got a lot of concerns. So it's actually harder for them. They can't just be like, okay, everybody gets a ChatGPT subscription. Actually, today I just saw that OpenAI is announcing a new tier of professional licensing, something like $20,000 a month for a PhD level ChatGPT subscription. But that still doesn't really solve the problem that we're solving, which is aiming at integration. I think AI and all of the tools that we're seeing for the enterprises, really more like the open source libraries and kind of the raw foundational technology that's out there. That's what excites me. The power is not realized until you can figure out how to integrate it with your existing data and your existing application. A lot of people think that that stuff is boring. I find it really exciting because it kind of draws on all of my experience. It goes back to like my super early experience dealing with mundane business processes, paper management, compliance stuff, document processing is boring, but it's critical. And I think that is where every enterprise has the opportunity to get a lot of value out of AI, but they have to integrate it with their processes and they have to integrate it with their data.
Yeah.
Not
Yes, I
necessarily
mean,
fun, but very doable. Very doable.
yeah, because the companies that are bigger, they're not as flexible. Like they have those are like rigid structures, hierarchies that are with layers of older stems and all of that. So
Well, so I'm finding there's an appetite. So I am finding there's actually a huge appetite for AI. There's a huge appetite to try to figure out how to harness it. The harder part, it's not necessarily say the rigidity of the hierarchy, but in many cases the rigidity, to use your word, of the existing application stack and things like, so for example, I try to figure out what are the core applications that they're using. Do they have any APIs available? Do they have any existing APIs that we could use to create data pipelines into an AI overlay system or tool? And if they don't have APIs, then we have to figure out how to build them for them. So that's where it gets rigid,
I imagine
so to speak.
This sounds to me a lot like
tricky.
Elon Musk's Doge approach to government, like cutting off the waste first and then rebuild everything a little bit.
Well, yes and no. So SprinkleNet is not, I'm not going into places saying, hey, let's throw all this stuff out. My core pitch is more about let's work with what you've got and let's actually find ways to layer on smart AI across the top of your application stack. But let's do it in a way that is private, secure, and sort of not just, employees uploading PDFs and documents willy-nilly to ChatGPT or Grok now or whatever their personal favorite LLM is. I think that's the future for now, especially for small to mid-sized enterprises, is create the layers, create the data pipeline. You can't just get rid of an ERP system. You can't just get rid of a cash app. You can't just get rid of a CRM system. Like, you just can't do it. There's a transition.
Yes, and because if you have, like, I know this from my own company, because you have a CRM and then it's a nightmare to change them from a practical standpoint, right? For all your, it's just so much disruption, and it needs the challenge is to do this in a non-disruptive way.
Expensive too. So, imagine you're a mid-sized enterprise that's been I'm just as an example, growing through acquisition. Every time you acquire another company, you're inheriting their IT infrastructure too. You're inheriting different system. It's not easy to just to throw that stuff out and consolidate. So our approach, and I'm a big proponent of this, is to say, okay, let's kind of work with what we've got here, but let's create a new layer based on the data. Let's create a new layer that's powered by AI, infuses all of these different applications that you have across the enterprise. I think that's a lot more doable and a lot frankly, it's a lot cheaper. It's a lot more cost effective.
I love that what you just said. Let's implement a layer on top of what you have in a way that's not too intrusive or it sounds like
exactly.
And
I'm super excited about that.
Business owners appreciate that approach because it's more feasible than just throwing everything out of the window and then start over again, right? So
I mean, you had a system in your past life. We were talking. You had implemented an SAP solution. I mean, that Once you make that decision and you're a few $1 million into a massive enterprise application, a few years, few $1 million or more in,
No,
you're
because of
not
the
just going to throw it
massive
out.
investment,
Like you,
because
you
it was
have to
so
figure out
expensive to
what can you
even
do.
get to the point where you have, and it took
Yeah.
me like a year to get it running
Yep.
properly. It was a nightmare of implementation. I remember that and then,
Yep.
yeah, so
Yep.
it can be actually
I will say this. So on the timing, and we have a few clients that are very happy with the speed. Like I pride myself on moving quickly. Any sort of thing that we do, I mean, my specialty is building rapid prototypes, rapid MVPs, and then making sure they're scalable and ready to, scale and grow with the enterprise. But I think that AI done right for the enterprise, these are not 6 months initiative. You need to like be rolling out value 60, 90 days, like within 60 days. Our goal is to have demonstrable value in every single instance. These are
okay. So
fast moving
this is
types
number
of
two that
projects.
you've already given me two nuggets here from that are very unique to your business, which is how you work with layers, putting layers on top that allow companies to implement technology in a very cost-efficient way. Not only that, but also you do this in a time-sensitive manner. Like so, you get results fast, right? So this is another differentiator for you, which I think is really critical, because every business owner, I mean, you don't want to get into a process that's months and almost years to get any so we want all, I mean,
No.
time is such an important factor for any business. And so I wanted to ask you to please, can you come up with, for those out there who also work in this environment, so other huge opportunity do you see, or lesson would you that from your experience as a entrepreneur in that space? So what other opportunity or lesson would you say is right now, like what's the biggest opportunity right now out there for companies in the AI space, or that want to implement AI into their?
Well, you're asking a few different questions there. Like I think the biggest opportunity for non-AI, so we're an AI company. We are AI experts, AI systems integrators, AI developers. For everybody else, if you don't have in-house AI skills and you don't have in-house developers that have broad knowledge of the actual software, the applications, the way to build these things, the way to connect the dots, the way to connect the tools, biggest opportunity is most likely taking what you've got. What do you have right now within your organization in terms of proprietary data? What is your business value? Like, what is it that you do? And with AI applied, we believe that most enterprises can do it a lot more efficiently. What that means: cut costs, improve speed, improve value to all of your end users, whether they're end users on the customer side or end users within your enterprise in terms of employee users. It's about efficiency, and it's about doing it faster, better, and cheaper than it's ever been done before. So taking all of the, let's just take a function within an enterprise, for example, like contract management. Okay. Contract management, it's complex. There's a lot of people involved. There's a lot of processes involved. What if you could take that entire process, that workflow, pipeline it into an AI system so that every aspect of every contract, every phase of the contract, everybody, every aspect of it is literally searchable at your fingertips through a very simple chat interface, like at any moment. Gone are the days. I think it was the CEO of Microsoft has been out there basically saying that enterprise software as we know it is not going to exist in the future. It's all moving in the direction of AI in the background, feeding real simple chat interfaces, really simple interfaces, not lots of buttons, not lots of toggles, search for this, switch for that. No, it's connect the data and give every employee in the organization access to what they need with a real simple interface. If somebody has a question about something, you can just ask the chat and get the answer immediately. Now, you can't ask ChatGPT because it doesn't have all your information. It's not connected to all of your IT systems. But if you do that and you connect it to the your own, let's say, customized chat system, it becomes very powerful. So to land the plane on that, I think that's a huge opportunity for enterprises to get a lot more efficient. If you look at their sort of cost structures, I think that these projects done well can dramatically reduce costs, internal operating costs, and dramatically increase
Yes.
customer satisfaction
Yes,
in
and
different areas.
we see this on an individual basis by how these, for example, right now Grok 3 came out, right? It's super powerful, but what I'm lacking is this. But what I love about the ChatGPT is that you have these project, and then you can just use this. First of all, ChatGPT knows me already because there's a memory, so I don't have to explain everything from the beginning again. But also, I can though just create these project-based spaces where then you can add some references, text to it, and then it's really helpful. And I think what you're saying is goes into the same direction for larger corporations. There's more reference, so you could basically have corporate internal knowledge base where these individual employees can then sort of access whatever they are allowed to access, and then get all this in real time and just save tons of hours of communication or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yes. I think every enterprise is going to do it's going to become as ubiquitous as email, what you just described. But it's not going to happen overnight, and it's also not magic. It takes a few critical steps to kind of turn that on and make it happen, which is why I like to start at the sort of the process mapping side of things, doing a real deep dive and making sure that we understand exactly what the existing workflows are. And then we help the clients figure out how they map that into this overlay system. But everybody's going to do it. If you don't do it, if you don't create systems like this, you will be left behind, and you will be, probably out of business because everybody else will do it.
Yes, it's really just that's now the time is now for AI adoption on every level. I agree with that. So, Jamie, for just to finish off our interview, can you let the audience know how they can reach out to you? Can you do like because the other day you mentioned that you could do like sort of a diagnostic for potential clients who want to move forward and actually take action with this stuff. So how does it work to get in touch with you?
So I can be reached via email, jamie@sprinklenetlabs.com. I think Jamie at SprinkleNet works too, but I think my official email is jamie@sprinklenetlabs.com. I love doing the initial sort of strategy deep dive with businesses because I love learning about their existing processes. I love learning about the bottlenecks and the challenges. Basically, that's how we start pretty much all engagements, is sort of just like deep dive on trying to understand what's going on. So I'm down here in Colombia. Side note, but you'll see where I'm going in a second here. There's a lot of these BPOs down here, business process outsourcing organizations. The CEO of BPO brought me in the other day, and I don't think either of us was expecting it to turn into such a broad expedition, but they basically showed me the whole operation. They gave me a tour of the whole facility, their applications, and I started thinking about like, okay, this is interesting. Like I'm getting a sense for what are the applications that you use? What are the applications that you've developed internally over the years? What are the different services that you're providing to your clients, and how are these applications and your employees interfacing with all this stuff? It all starts with a deep dive, and then we kind of digest that and try to come up with a plan based on the discovery process, if you will. That's a long-winded way of saying, send me an email, tell me what your problems are, and then I'll ask you more questions about what your problems are. I'll ask you more questions about sort of what your IT stack is, and then we start to kind of formulate what's possible and what we might recommend from a strategic advisory standpoint.
So I got the last part. We were interrupted again. There was a connection signal gone for 2 seconds.
Sorry about that.
Maybe we just read that last part one more time. I'm gonna ask the same question one more time, and then you give me again I'm gonna ask you how they can reach out to you and what process for getting being onboarded with you, right? Okay, because there was a 2-3 seconds interruption, so I want to do this again. So the call to action is complete. Okay. So Jamie, well, this is really interesting here. So I wanted to give the audience the opportunity to reach out to you. So because you mentioned the other day that you can do like a diagnostic on their systems and on what to do and how to move forward. And so can you just give them a way to reach out and how that look like?
Yeah, so I'm available via email anytime, jamie@sprinklenetlabs.com. I can post it for you later. Basically, I like learning about what the client or enterprise problems are. I'd ask them to tell me what their where their bottlenecks are, tell me about the existing tech stack, tell me about the applications. I'll ask questions, more questions, and we basically try to do an assessment of the existing processes, and we then use that information to provide the best advice and insight we can into what might be doable, and provide options in terms of, okay, here's a phase one, phase two, phase three, based on your specific situation and what you can expect to get out of that. Does that make sense? It involves sort of us developing an understanding of what the business is facing right now, and then coming up with practical solutions based on our broad knowledge of AI tools and
Okay.
options that are
Sounds
out there.
great. Well, thank you very much, Jamie, for your insights and your time here with me on the podcast. I hope the audience got a really valuable piece of information here. And see you guys on the next show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and goodbye, Jamie.
Bye, Roman. Thank you for your time.
Bye-bye.
Have a good day over there in Bali.